Good morning, everybody. John Spiokla here from GAI Insights, bringing you the Gen AI news briefing. Today, we've got our special guest of Tim Andrews, tech wizard that he is, Luda Kopakina, who's not only been a general manager, but also programmed operating systems, and Lucinda Lindy, who is busy actually helping organizations move their data over, create large language models, and building up a Gen AI competency for her firm, and of course, on Kajanda. We are here to save you some time, put thoughts in your head. All right. Ankash, we can start us off with the first article, please.
Sure. Thanks, Sean. So the first one that we have for today comes from Amazon. So Amazon has unveiled Nova Act, which is their AI agent that can control a web browser.
Yes, and I forgot to say three other things, which is please like and subscribe our channel if you are coming in from any place where you can like and subscribe it. And then you can also follow along GAI Insights /articles to follow along with us. All right, Tim, what do you think of this new capability out of our friends at Amazon?
I think it's, as usual for Amazon, playing catch up. And it's sort of a soft beta release, so it's not really out. So I think it's optional in general for the AI leader. It's interesting. Again, we're seeing new areas. I think here with computer use, and literally, I think it's Anthropic is called, or is it OpenAI is called computer use, and I think one's called operator, one's called computer use. This is called Nova, but they all are trying to emulate screen grabbing, as we used to call it. So the ability to control the cursor and the mouse and do things on the screen. So much easier to create autonomous agents, obviously, if you can do that, because you don't have to get into the underlying guts of APIs and rewrite things like that. You can just use them as they already exist. So, interesting, keeping pace with the Joneses, as they say, but especially since it's a product announcement and not even sounds like fully baked, I would give it an optional.
All right, we're headed for optional here. I'm going to move this one along pretty quickly, I think. Lucinda, you okay with the optional?
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
Luda?
All the same. Yep.
Paul, you good? Big O? All right, we're not going to pound this one to death. Next, Ankash.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from Runway and talks about their Gen 4 model.
Wow, I tell you, as somebody who I actually made cartoons and things like that, this is like, we couldn't have dreamed of this stuff. Amazing ability to, have consistency. Look at these images, moving cars, flames. My God, these are hard to do. Luda, what do you think here?
It is certainly very amazing. And Runway as a company is growing, tripling in revenue. So it was 48 million in 23, 126 in 24, and predicted to have 250 in 25. So it's really has a lot of followers, obviously, right? But for we have other models like that, essentially. So I thought it was optional for our AI leaders. Unfortunately, because it's stunning. It's everyday miracles type of category.
Yeah, just amazing. I agreed, optional. What do you think here, Lucinda? Optional?
Yeah, I was on the border of optional and important. I do feel like I think if you work, obviously this is important to essential for anybody who's actually creating images, etc. I just feel like the images were incredible, much less fake looking. They don't have that kind of ooky AI feel to it, or much less of it anyway. A huge character consistency and object consistency. That was just unbelievably impressive. So, I think it's important if the AI leader is interfacing with marketing and saying, here's some things that you can do to really generate content. So again, optional / important.
Yeah, I almost went for important or essential. I was going to make the argument, the new PowerPoint, like I'm old enough that I existed before, PowerPoint took over all internal corporate communication. And I'm wondering if short form video is going to be the new PowerPoint.
Luda, those are stones, kind of stone tablets on the wall John's talking about.
This is the world with Mel Brooks comes out. I have the 15 command. One of them falls, and the 10 commandments from God. Anyway, I wonder if more and more internal corporate communication is going to be short form video. That's the way you win money and so forth. I don't know. Inside in the budget wars, what do you think here, Tim?
Yeah, I think we're going to talk more about images today. So we were just talking about computer use and screen scraping. This is the other even bigger area where there's been enormous advancement. And so we think of these things as language instruments, but vision is a language as well. And they're really starting to get good at it. And we are a visual species. So I wouldn't argue with you. I think I would probably say I think it's a bad idea, but I don't think I think you're probably right. Just like TV took over our world and everybody watches TV or video instead of reading books, which I also don't think is great for us, but we're so strongly attracted to the visual, I think it's inevitable. So I agree. Yeah. I think I would rate this at least important. Yeah.
Luda, where are you on this?
Well, I was optional, but listening to you and evolution of communications internally and Vivek just jumping in to say that business communications will change and this will be a great component of that. It's but as a news, right? I still think it's a little better than what we've seen. I don't know. I haven't compared it with Sora and its state of the art. Maybe this is better, but it's just like it's yet another miracle. But for the communication evolution, it's a trend that's maybe worth highlighting.
Has Sora ever been released?
Yeah, it was.
Did it get released?
It was underwhelming. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's available on GPT Plus, Tim.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lucinda, important, optional? What do you think?
Yeah, important.
All right, Paul, where are we going?
I 100% important because manually, I think the AI leader needs to push its organization to move the visual, emotionally impactful touch points for every one of its stakeholders.
Yeah.
Every recruit from college, from every board member, to every sales rep, to every internal employees, you need to have a visually compelling way. And these tools are the most cost-effective way to do that. It's unheard of. And most of these companies are sitting with tens of thousands of dollars in their communication department being wasted on text. And this is way, way more effective in terms of communication. So important.
Yep. Totally agree.
So we reviewed. I might be siding with important now. We reviewed yesterday the digital twin for a product. So digital twin with this type of a capability to generate things, generate images, put together can be pretty powerful.
All right. Important is Ankaj next.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from Ethan Mollick, and he says no elephants, breakthroughs in image generation.
Yeah, it's great. If you go down to the illustration too, in here he notes that in the previous models, you said, make sure you don't have elephants, no elephants in the room. The very frequency of the word elephant would make the model generate an elephant, as you see on the left. On the right-hand side, you see the logic, ceiling too low. These are reasons elephants can't actually be in this room. They're kind of interesting. Lucinda, what do you think?
Yeah, so I thought this was important. I know that this was like a really heavy visual day for the various articles. Important for a couple of reasons. Number one, that whole visual thing about the elephants and not having the word, and attaching logic to vision. And there's another article coming up later on, I think is really important and give a lot of control to image. Plus also, Ethan Mollick is such an accessible way to, understand what these capabilities are. He shows you how to iterate just like Paul does with the puppy, etc. And so I just feel like this is a good article in a very, for the AI leader to be able to communicate it with the other members of the executive team. So yeah, I think it's important for both the what and the how it was communicated.
Luda, where are you?
Yeah, I am important on this one. Again, very accessible description. We will absolutely use images for environment sensing, and that's very required for content, yeah, and context. So I really believe that this is an important article.
I'm going to make the argument for essential. This is a readable article with practical explanation and examples in it. And I'm partially projecting my own reaction because I've been paying so much attention to coding and customer response. And I tried the image models all the time, and I found them wanting, particularly placement of text, editing of images. And I know it's been moving along, but this one, it feels like the sort of the chat GPT moment. This one really feels like it got above threshold where, wow, I can make the images I want pretty simply. I can edit them pretty quickly in an interactive fashion. And it's so important. Again, we're a visual species. It's just going to be so important that I think leaders need to be aware of it. And they may be, I'm assuming, I'm projecting a little bit that, like me, they've been overwhelmed by the text and the coding and the other things, and maybe unless they're in visual areas, not paying so much attention to the image stuff because it's been a little bit second rate up till now.
Yeah, I think the power of being able to go from words to images to sounds to movies, across the different modalities, and then also to be able to sample that reality and bring it in and do something with
Yep.
it.
The
Yep.
ability to draw those rough sketches and get something pretty good out of them. I mean, it's quite powerful now. So to
Yeah.
me, this is what I look for is when things get what I call above threshold, where all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, most people could probably use this and create something decent. Then it's a really important thing to be aware of.
Yeah, and its implications, not just, in communication and so forth, but, when you get into the physical world, the relationship between the physical world and a digital description, that even if it's not a full digital twin, my ability to understand the logic isomorphically between physical reality and Turing reality, digital reality, and then to do function in the middle of that is just spectacular. I was going to go essential as well. Paul, where are you on this? You can bring us back from the essential precipice here.
I'm such a huge fan of Ethan. I don't think you could read enough of him. So I certainly support Essential.
All right, essential it is. Ankaj, next.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from VentureBeat and talks about experience AI framework that's changing financial access.
Yeah, here we have, giant Experian. I would say that the credit bureaus and insurance companies are the original AI companies, maybe, when you think about it, and certainly into analytics. Luda, you've been inside the bowels of a big beast. What do you think? Are you impressed by this?
Yeah, very much so. I gave it an important, if not essential. So this article goes through how Experian navigated the machine learning, and then when the ChatGPT hit, how they transitioned into Gen AI and how they used it. And but in addition to that history or historical projection, there are a number of tidbits in the article that are very important. Like they talk about where they focused on AI transformation, and where they did the how they encoded their data into machine learning mechanisms. So they built the semantic tree of their data so that the models are transparent and you can follow along. So they were prepared, and they focused on the 4 areas that are on the screen, right? And then it goes on of how they put together their technical stack with a lot of flexibility in the model layer, with specialized tools in the application layer, with the security layer and the governance structure. So this has, and then how they specifically use that for underserved folks, that is 26 million Americans who are immigrants or whatever, that they can't really apply for credit even though they're credit worthy. So they use their tools to find them and assess their creditworthiness and give them access. So this is tremendous, and that opened up quite a bit of value for these people and the company. So I just think this is an important use case that not only for financial industry, but in general.
All right, we're going for important here. What do you think, Lucinda?
Yeah, I'm on the border of important and essential. Important for the reasons that Luda said. Also, the way that they built in flexibility. They said no one-way doors. They built it on Azure and AWS, so they could get access to a lot of different models. I do love the credit of the people who they can't assess credit on by basically combining machine learning and large language models. Honestly, I wish I had the 30-page version of this model, because it gives you glimpses. And I think for somebody who's just starting to think about how to do this, this is a fantastic framework for giving you the outlines and the silhouettes of things. But the how actually would be really great to know. So yeah, but it's really important, because I think it shows that these frameworks of how to do this are starting to come out now.
Yeah, I was disappointed didn't have more financial data as well, but very
Yep.
strong thing. Tim, where are you? I'm on the border here.
Yeah, I was working my way up to important because it's a good use case from a large company, but I was underwhelmed. The frameworks are good, and that's one of the reasons I said, okay, it's important, because they do explain some important concepts. It's really, you got to be a big company with some serious expertise to work at this approach, but it's a good framework for anybody to at least think about it. And again, this is what we used to call, at least when I was in marketing, a puff piece. This is an advertisement. Isn't Experian great? And I can take the other side of the argument about the underserved people. At the one level, it's a good business idea that they're using this stuff to create new markets. At another level, I can see them being able to exploit people who now there's more spying on us, more, there's a negative side to this as well. But that's independent of the AI stuff. So we'll take that off the table for this discussion and say, yeah, I can go with important, but I was underwhelmed by the details on what they've actually done and what the return has actually been to the company. And I think it's really, if you're not a very large, very sophisticated company, a lot of this is not going to be applicable, because most organizations are not going to be able to afford multiple cloud instantiations, multiple model instantiations. I agree that they should be as loosely tied as possible to a particular approach, but most organizations just don't have the scale to do these kinds of things.
Yeah,
Interesting. There's a lot of we saw it coming kind of thing too, which is I wonder a bit. It's like, oh yeah, we knew this was coming. We're into this.
Yeah. It's a beating the chest kind of article a lot, and I have a negative reaction to those articles. So part of it is my emotional bias that people start beating their chest and venture beat. I'm like, okay.
All right, so I'm headed to important. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
I care in my dictatorship here, but
Yes, you're doing great.
important it is. Ankaj, next.
Okay, the next one comes from MIT Tech Review and talks about the first trial of Gen AI therapy, and it shows that it's helping with depression.
Yeah, fascinating. Our friends at Dartmouth here actually took this seriously and did a rigorous study of both what people are looking at and thought of it more as a medical device or a medical process than a lot of the kind of self-help bots out there. What do you think on this one, Tim?
I'm in this area to a certain extent, so I'm more interested in it. I think it's optional for the general AI leader, because it's quite specific to therapy and medical issues. I wanted to say important because I think that it points out a couple of things. One is these things can do stuff you just can't believe, right? And this is it seems to be a pretty reasonably designed study. So this isn't just like I said so, like the last article. This is like they did a real controlled study. And the thing that was remarkable was that they got the same effect, that is similar effects to human therapy from the robots, but in half the time. And the bigger idea here for me, which is true across everything, is this idea, again, it's an Alan Kay cliche and others as well, that the first thing we do with these new technologies is what we used to do. So this is doing therapy the way we do therapy today with new technology. So we're changing the substrate from humans to robots, but we're doing therapy in exactly the same way. The fact is that they did it in half the time. That means maybe there are even different ways of doing therapy and different, and you, that's a broad principle. Maybe there are different ways of doing business. Maybe there are different ways of doing coding that we just don't think about because we're so happy right now that we can get better at what we're already doing. So that's the bigger lesson here, but it's hard for me to raise this up a lot because it's quite specific to psychotherapy.
Yeah, I thought that too, and I was kind of headed toward optional. Then I thought about the issue of behavioral health as a cost to every company.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Behavioral health, if you take the behavioral health cost is about 240 billion a year. There's about
that we can measure, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and there's probably a lot more is the opinion of most people in the medical industry that you just don't know about.
Yeah, and as we see in this article, half the people who medical professionals think should be getting therapy are not getting it. So you
right,
have that thing too.
Big shortage of capability. Yep.
Yeah, and then you've got about 160 or 364 million people employed. That's a cost per employee of about $1,300 a year. I mean, that's a big $100 a month. I mean, that's a big number. $100 a month for everybody employed in the United States. So anyway, that's why I was leaning more toward important or essential as a whole. This is like when what was that company, Livongo? I don't think they did a very good job, but Livongo went after
diabetes.
Yes, and the diabetes cost is massive on the organization. So anyway, I was kind of heading that way. I don't know. What do you think here, Lucinda?
Yeah, I'm probably just more on the optional part, only because, I mean, how would the AI leader translate that into like all the healthcare? It's a lot of friction points. I totally agree with you from a human good point of view. The fact that 50% of people can't afford to get any sort of help with depression, etc. And these models are infinitely patient, and they try different things, and they never get angry, etc. They're really, I mean, it's that the human good part of it is great. But I was thinking, can we even use this for marketing, for how to get across certain things? Possibly, again, but it's just too many jumps. So I'm leaning towards the optional side.
Yeah, I was kind of firmly in the optional. Because this article doesn't provide answers really. It raises a whole bunch of questions of how we're going to do that, but we still don't have answers. And also it sounds a big question mark about the validity of answers. How do we validate them? And there's a piece of the article that talks about that prior tools had the canned answers and to avoid doing damage, right? And so here, again, we haven't solved that little bit that we have to before these tools become really actionable. You can play at character AI, but we know that some of the things it may say might be not good. So it's just not there yet.
Yeah, I would push back against that. And I know that's the societal norm. I feel the same way about autonomous driving because you're comparing it to perfection, not to the alternative. So if the alternative is no therapy, okay, that's really damaging to a lot of people. And if the alternative is, well, humans make mistakes and say things that can be harmful too. So I think, you have to have some sort of is this at least as good or better than what we currently have? Same feeling I have about autonomous driving. It's like, okay, if it runs one stop sign, people are upset. But if it reduces 90% of the fatalities on the road, they don't care. It's just crazy to think that way. So to me, I think it's a long ways from being real because they said that, and that is an issue. But I think that all this worry about, well, something bad might happen. Yes, that's important, but how bad is it relative to what we already do in the situation these people are already in?
Yeah, good point. But what would you suggest? we are talking about.
I think we have to do more research, more studies like this, and
No, no,
move
no.
it forward.
Yeah. No, I mean, for AI leader to use that information.
Oh yeah, that's why I said it was hard for me to bump this up too high, because this is going to take a while. I would normally say years to a decade, but things move so fast now. Maybe not, but it's certainly not today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
But John's point is good. This is a big cost for companies.
Totally.
And so you need to start paying attention early to try and catch this thing as soon as possible. So it's not unimportant in that sense.
No, I agree.
All right, I've been overwhelmed by the mob. We're going to go optional here. Looks like Vivek said that this. I think he's saying that this is actually going to be a defensible position. I would agree with you, Vivek. We're going to see a bunch of small models that are going to be either wrapped around existing models or new, de novo models that are going to be defensible, I think. All right, we come up to the last one up here. QVQ Max, our friends in China, are now going wild with images. What do you think here, Lucinda?
So I think this is a very interesting article. I'm going to rate it as important for a couple of reasons. Number one, so I gave it a couple of tests. One of the things that I'm working on is actually, believe it or not, mystery shopping, where you have to take pictures of stuff. And there needs to be an editor that looks at the pictures, like counting the number of slices of pepperoni. So I spent like a week with different photos of pepperonis and different ways to get AIs to count slices of pepperoni. This did it right off the bat. So it was really good from that point of view. That was one test I gave. Another test I gave it was that I asked it to give me an AWS architectural diagram and to use the icons from AWS to build out this particular application. It's using Q Business. You go to S3, and I even mentioned that it had Lambda in it, but it put the Lambda in. So from the reasoning point of view, it was really great. It like I could probably give this. I asked it then to generate the diagram, and it totally I guess it's not so good at generation. It's good at interpretation of photos, but not generation. I'd have to take the very detailed logic that it gave and then give it to maybe a different one, like one of the Meta ones or OpenAI. So I think that from that the reasoning part and the visual is really interesting. Then the third thing is really the ecosystem. So what if you are an AI leader? Would you now go to Qwen? But then you start thinking about, well, there's the OpenAI ecosystem, there's the AWS ecosystem. Do I really want to bring in another ecosystem? So that I think is really showing that as the maturity of these ecosystems is growing, that even something that's very specialized and excellent like this seems to be, makes it harder for it to gain the traction. So important.
It's also Chinese.
Well, yes. Yep.
All right, so we're looking at important here, Lucinda, for you?
Yep.
All right. Luda, what do you think? Important, optional?
I was on the optional side. I can be convinced I can defer to Lucinda because she tried it. It's thinking capability. In terms of utility to AI leaders, I don't believe they will switch. Not yet, not now. So as much as it is very powerful or more powerful than competitors, I think its utility is optional. So I ended on the optional side, but I can be convinced too important to just highlight what Lucinda said, its power, its abilities that are higher than what competition does.
All right, so we're looking at optional to important. Tim, where are we?
Yeah, I would lean towards important because this is really, especially after hearing Lucinda, I only tried it out for a second, but it's darn impressive. I couldn't find anywhere the size of the model. I don't know if you did, Lucinda, but
no.
Yeah, so they call it QVQ Max. So I don't know how big it is, how much it costs. There are lots of questions here, but it's impressive. It's darn impressive. And it's in your comments you've made many times, John, about sort of sovereign AI.
Yeah.
I think we've got our heads in the sand in the US. I mean, we should be researching this stuff like crazy because, as I said at the beginning, one of the big issues here is, are you going to JP Morgan, Experian, Procter and Gamble going to take a Chinese company's open source model into your organization? And I think at least half the answers are probably no, maybe more.
All right.
But this capability then is going to put us behind other people who will if we aren't careful.
I'm totally with you. So it says that this is built on top of 72B.
Okay, so it's a small model, which makes it just that much more impressive.
Yeah. All righty, we're going to Borden. All right, now, guys, we get to the top board. Any announcements or anything from folks? We had a great, learning lab last night. It'll be up on our website shortly at youtube.com/at GAI Insights.
Terrific.
Inspired by you, Lucinda, here in terms of his thing. And
Yes.
also, please do subscribe and like the channel. Ankash, how are we doing?
Hold on, John. There's also Woodstock happening in Boston, right?
Oh,
Woodstock.
okay, go ahead. I don't know.
I think it is tomorrow, maybe even today. Lucinda, do you know?
I
think
it's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. It's Wednesday,
Yeah.
which is tomorrow, April
Yeah.
2nd.
Okay.
Timeout Boston. I'm not sure of the exact time. Probably 6 o'clock.
9:30 p.m. at
5:30.
Boston at Timeout Market in Boston at 401 Park Drive in Boston.
Yeah,
Mass.
it's right in the Fenway area, I think.
Yeah, for those who've been in Boston for a while, it's the old Sears Distribution Center.
Right.
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 Okay. All right. Here we've got one essential, three importance, and two optionals. A big reading day, very visual. Hope you all found this useful. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.